Welcome back to the Getting Results Inc. podcast. My name is Coach Gino, and alongside is Super Coach, Coach Ken. Super Coach, how are you today?
We're doing awesome. We have a fine example of a person keeping America safe for capitalism with us today. I'm very excited about this interlude.
Awesome. And who Ken is referring to is one of our clients, Bob Podraza of Robert James Investments. Bob, how are you today?
I'm having a great day, and it's a great day in America.
Love it.
And it's
Love
negative,
it.
and it's negative 2 degrees in Upper Bucks County, Pennsylvania, too.
Man, good for you. That's good. Did you get outside and play in the snow at all, or?
I have a snowblower that I enjoyed using about a day ago. Yeah, it was awesome. Part of living in Pennsylvania, the beauty
There
of
you
it,
go.
we get 4 seasons. Not like California, where it's the same day every day.
Every
That's
day.
right.
Every day.
Those of us in
Florida,
the
where it's just
Northeast are much
summer.
hardier and stronger.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually born in a cornfield in upstate New York, outside of Syracuse. So I grew up with winters starting at Thanksgiving and ending at Easter.
There you go.
Yeah,
See?
yeah.
Not that foofy stuff down in Sarasota, Ken. All warmth and sun. You guys don't. Resilience level
Yeah.
very low, very low.
Hey, by design, I can always come and visit winter.
That's true. That's true. Well, tell you what, Bob. Since you started talking a bit about yourself, tell us about you. Tell us about your business, years in the business, your clients, what your focus is, all that good stuff. Feel
Sure.
free to share. We'd love to hear it.
Thank you. So I began my sales career as a major account executive for the Verizon Yellow Pages. So I am 63 years young, and I became a financial advisor at age 50. So I am not cut from the financial cloth, as I say. And when I became an advisor, I started with Edward Jones Investments, and great firm to learn. They taught me a lot. I started from scratch, as they say at Edward Jones. I had a golf ball in my pocket to knock on doors, to keep the stress off your knuckles. And as a guitar player, that's important to me. But getting face to face in the community is something that I always enjoy doing. My dad was a high school football coach and a high school chemistry teacher. So my dad was always a guy I tried to emulate, and he was always in the community. He ended his career as a high school principal. So when I became an advisor, I'm like, I want to do business face to face. I want to get deep into the community that I live. Upper Bucks County is a beautiful, county. We're one of the top counties in not only Pennsylvania, but the United States as far as wealth and the economy. So it's just a great place to do business. I was with Edward Jones for almost 10 years, transitioned to my own firm. So Robert James Investments, I've been my own firm and in business for 3 years now. And we serve about 120 families in the community. And I will say this, I have a great sign out front. And unlike my 10 years with Edward Jones, when it said Edward Jones, and I had a placard that was removed quickly when I wasn't there anymore with somebody else's name, now my name's out there. I have a real sense of pride of that and a real sense of responsibility.
Thank you. First, I would like to highlight one of the reasons why Bob is on this podcast is because I think he is a great example of a possibility of where you can take a business and how you can grow a business. Because if you guys are watching on the YouTube or if you're listening to us, especially if you're looking at it, you're looking at a real life rock star. Bob is in a band. He's a lead singer. He can play the piano. He can play the guitar. He is a musical guy, and music truly calls to him. And as we were working together and designing his business, he has truly designed it around music. Now, some of you may think that's strange. I mean, he is a lead singer in a rock band and plays active gigs 2 to 3 times a week. And he also actively practices. He has a musician coach. He's got a voice coach. This boy is committed to music. And I submit to all of you out there, that is his slight edge in building his business. As we've said before, at some point in your career, you make more money than you need. Now, some of you won't believe that, but it's actually true. So this becomes this interesting question is how do you have elite advisors become elitier? And if you listen to some of our stuff in the past or read our articles, connected with us on LinkedIn, those other platforms, we say the following statement all of the time. When you're in alignment, you will go further and faster with less fuel. Okay. And if you're out of alignment, it will create friction, and friction will create fires. And in general, fires are bad. So I'd just like you to wax a little bit about your rock star lifestyle and how that happened and how you weave it into your business.
Wow. Well, Coach Ken, I don't play 2 or 3 times a week. I play 2 or 3 times a month because if I did two or three times a week, my wife would not be happy.
But you practice at least too, but you're practicing all the time.
I have a 1938 restored baby grand Steinway in my conference room. So when I meet with families in the conference room, the baby grand is there. I play for them often. Sometimes they want to play it. It's just a beautiful piece. I was fortunate enough to have my mother, Hazel Peterson Podraza, who just passed last year at age 89. She gave me the gift of music. So she made me take piano lessons, walk up the hill to Mrs. Clayton's house in 2nd grade and take piano lessons, as well as my 2 sisters. I have 2 sisters.
So literally, you play music with clients in the office?
Sure. Why not? I
And
mean,
so when you tell me more. So when that happens, what are you like? What do you notice with the client? Like what's because I bet all the thousands of other financial advisors who are listening do not play the piano for their client.
well, Coach Ken, I'm not sure that's a true statement. There may be some.
I doubt it.
First of all, I do it because I like to play myself. I like to perform for others, and the sound is absolutely phenomenal. It's a beautiful Steinway, but it gives me an opportunity to connect with them at a different level. Music, oftentimes, when you think about songs that we hear throughout our day, or sometimes when they play the top 100 songs of 1970 or something like that, takes us back to a connection emotionally. So, I will ask them what type of music they often would like to hear. Hopefully it's Billy Joel or Elton John or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Classic rock stuff, which I do. But yeah, I enjoy that.
So you enjoy. So when you're playing music for them, it's almost like a different version of you, or like a higher version of self is present, as compared to if you were cleaning toilets with them. That would be a different way of being, if you will. Because I doubt you enjoy cleaning toilets, or maybe you do. But yet, when playing music, what opens up for you in doing?
It gives me an opportunity to show a different side of Bob Podraza to the client, number one. Number two, it gives me an opportunity to invite them to musical events that I have in the community, whether it be my classic rock band or my church choir, or we have a group coming in that's a barbershop quartet for Valentine's Day. Invite them for that. It allows me to invite them to the Sellersville Theater here in Upper Bucks County, which is a beautiful 300-seat theater with great entertainment, so we could spend time together listening to music as well. And it's all very social and not business, so to speak.
Yeah, Bob and I were talking prior to the podcast, and I think, like stories, stories have been around forever, right? That's what people enjoy, stories, movies, books. But music also plays a huge role in people's lives. Like, who doesn't enjoy music? Whatever type of music it is. And I think when you're sharing your music with people, you're sharing in a very authentic part of yourself. And they get to really, truly know you deeper.
And for all you black belt students that work out there, I want you to notice something about how the beauty of music and playing an instrument begins to weave the tapestry of Bob Podraza's life and business together. It becomes a thematic cause, which allows everything to make sense. And then you can see how everything begins to weave together purposefully by design. Playing music in the office as a Thayerville club. I also know because I coach him. He also goes to concerts with clients. Ironically, many of his major relationships are music related, right? Whether they are in the musical industry, or whether they play music, or whether they play together in a band, or whether they invited him into a place to perform for them. It is such a beautiful example of what's possible. Now, of course, you can do it a different way too. You can do seminars in the library basement and be really compelled about doing more Social Security and Medicare seminars in basements to get clients. But how compelling of a future is that for you? How excited are you to go to work to go do basement based seminars or plate licking events? So when you're in alignment, you go further and faster, less fuel, right? And ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing here is a person that's in alignment who is inspired by his business, inspired by what he does, also inspired by the way that he prospects. Now, everyone just wrap your head around that one for a moment. Imagine being inspired by the way that you prospect instead of, man, I got this list of dentists. I really like dentists. I can't wait to call them all.
I got to grind it out.
I got to grind it out. I'm going to hit my numbers. I'm going to win. I'm going to grind it out. As compared to playing music. Now, everyone is unique. And I think that's one of the huge benefits of what getting results does is help you figure out what your slight edge is and how you're going to prospect over time consistently. Because the more that we can help you make it feel like you're not prospecting, but you are prospecting, you're playing to advantage. Because Gino and I have done presentations across the country and we'll say, okay, how many people love to prospect? And it's very rare that a hand goes up. Every now and then you get a psychopath or a sociopath or someone that we've coached. They'll raise their hand and say, hey, I like to prospect because it's in alignment with them. And I think that's the most exciting thing about Bob is that it's an individual in alignment, right? Who loves what he does. And like when he sings in choir, is not only is he expressing himself, but it's his way to serve his God, right? And there is no higher way of being than that in my humble understanding of things. Good work.
Yeah.
Good work. Yeah, and you got to tell about Funkin Soul Nuts.
Well, first of all, I would like to just say this, that when I began, our relationship, I've been with Getting Results and Super Coach Ken, Coach Gino, for almost 8 years. He asked me to do this podcast. I'm like, let me go back and see when did I start? And I'm like, oh, holy cow, almost 8
Man,
years.
that's a commitment.
And Coach Ken always said, takes time for rice to cook. I'm like, come on, minute rice takes about a minute, doesn't it? Or maybe an hour for a good risotto.
Another Italian thing here,
I
risotto.
love that.
For
It takes
me,
risotto
it
longer.
was, I was at Edward Jones when I began with Super Coach Ken, and it was much of those things that we did. Seminars. I didn't do any plate licking, Coach Ken, but I did do.
You
I
probably
do
did.
I do a coffee club once a month on the first Wednesday of every month. I did that, and as I began to do those consistent activities that I like to do, because I like to talk to people, I like to be in front of people. I like to have a spotlight on me. I like a microphone. That worked for me. So that was the beginning. And then, I played golf. Coach Ken would, why don't you do some golf? And I'm like, okay, I like it, but I didn't love it. And the music came over time as we worked together. It wasn't something that was,
You resisted
the
it.
light bulb immediately went on. And so I think part of the coaching experience for me is that, it takes time for rice to cook, so to speak. And you go through the mental gymnastics in your own head, as we advisors do. We beat ourselves up. Where's our next, 10 million coming from? What's in the pipeline, et cetera, et cetera, And then some of us in the financial world have to report to a manager, right? And as I did at Verizon, as well as Edward Jones. But to do something consistently, it's better if you like to do it. So the value is in the repetition of what you're able to do viscerally for yourself. And as Coach Ken always says to me, all types of advertising and networking work. They all work. but what do you want? What works for you? And it's not like, okay, well, Joe Smith's doing this, Bob, look at how great he's doing. You should be doing what he's doing. That's not the journey with getting results. That's the opposite of what the opportunity is here, because of all the things that I've accomplished in my career and personally. It's the part where I decided that I could just do what I like to and not what other people think I should do. Or I get a lot of love, let's so to speak, from my family now that I've been working with Coach Ken. They're like, my sister actually asked me this question, Coach Ken, and I'm going to share this one with you because I just saw her the other day, and I love my sister Diane. But she goes, "You're still working with that?" I was talking about Coach Ken. I was talking about you in some venue.
Thank
She
you.
goes, "You're still working with that guy?" I go, "He's still are you brainwashed by that guy?" I said,
Yes.
"It's interesting, Diane." I said, "It's great. That's a great question." She goes, "Well, did you ask Coach Ken the question I told you to ask him?" And I'm like, "You mean the one where I say, hey, Coach Ken, if you did such a great job as a super coach, why do I still need you?"
Mm. Oh, because you're
And
not ready to
Diane,
snatch the pebble from the hand.
so Diane, and I love Diane, but Diane is from a mindset of the game is won, where somewhere along the line, the task is accomplished. And as we know here, the journey is never won. And, as I celebrate my mom's 89th birthday and saw her pass, and I realized that what the great things she did for me, the music she taught me, she's a great mom, but she's not, she's not here. So what did she accomplish? She accomplished the gift of music to me, which I carry on. Her oldest brother, Robert Gordon Peterson, died at age 19 in 1945.
Mm.
And so I always remember, so Robert James Investments is named after Robert Gordon Peterson.
Wow.
My middle name is James. And so that's how Robert James Investments, how we came up with the firm's name, as well as the logo, American flag. So, when you think about all these people have passed in our lives, and Diane asked me, well, aren't you done with Coach Ken? Didn't you learn everything you need to learn? and the part of having a coach in your life is that there's always something that comes up every week, every month, different situation that you have someone to talk to. And not just someone to talk to, but someone that will. So part of the value of my experience, as the music, obviously, and coming out of that has been beautiful, but also the part where we get an opportunity to talk about things that are personal for me, that are grating on my mind, and that's been a great experience as well. So
Mm.
Diane, I love you, but the game's never won, and it's always great to have someone, a coach in your life. The other thing I would
Thank you.
say, Coach Ken, as Coach Gino, I would say this to you. I'm thinking, wow, my dad was a coach. I like the coaching thing. My dad got
Really?
so many letters of appreciation when he passed by people that he coached. And he was a high school chemistry teacher too. But the letters he got were of his coaching. He was a high school football coach. Remembered him and appreciated what he did to develop them as men as well as football players. And we always seem to remember our coaches rather than our teachers for some reason. And those of us that played high school football teams, I was
Yeah, of course.
captain of my high school football team back in upstate New York, and I have a great set of friendships from my team, and as well as the coaches. I remember that. As I'm getting more focused on the music for myself, I'm like, I have a client that tunes my piano 4 times a year to come in. We talked. All of a sudden, I found out he teaches guitar lessons. So he is now my guitar coach, music coach, and he's teaching me the circle of fifths and music theory, where the journey that I did in music, I mean, I'm good, but there's so much to learn when you really dial in, focus on something you love to do. So I have a music coach now, and I was telling Coach Ken that it's probably I would like to get a health coach because, I'm 63 years young, Coach Gino. I want to be here for the families for the next 20 years.
Well, I'll also say that you inspired me last Peerage when you played a guitar song and you had a song about getting results that was pretty awesome, and it did inspire me. So Ken, I was telling him as of this January, it took me a while to get going. I kept working on my own, but I hired a guitar coach as well.
Oh, awesome.
I'm 3 lessons in, and in fact, I have one tonight. Every Thursday night, 7 o'clock is my guitar lesson. So you inspired me, Bob. So I will say that when I saw you play and sing and everything like that, that did hit a chord with me to hire a coach. So I appreciate that because you truly did
Beautiful.
inspire me.
It's beautiful.
I think Bob has hit, I think I'm coming up with an interesting analogy of what it's like. And I think if you're a musician, there's an idea that you can learn to play a song, right? And you can truly learn that song upside down and sideways. And now that you've learned the song, you can be done, right? If I've learned the song, I can sing Yankee Doodle Dandy, frontwards and backwards. Or you can learn how to play music. And if you learn to play music, you will begin to notice that that is a path. That's a way that the further you go down the path, more of the path is revealed to you. Much like in business, ultimately what we coach on is about the way of business. It's a way. The further you go, the further you can go. Or way leads on to way, and more is revealed to you on this particular path. Much like the martial arts, much like art in general, or writing, or even life itself. The more that you learn about life, the more that you can learn about it, right? The deeper and deeper it goes. So it's an interesting thing on how do you want to frame this thing called work or business or your profession? Is it work or is it your way and that your path is noble and right and that you're on the path of righteousness? And that ultimately what you do is you're serving. You're making the planet better. That's why I'm such a proponent of capitalism, because you have to use your brains, right? It's value for value. It's an exchange of value, free choice. The only reason why Bob Podraza has clients is because he does good work for them and they value what he does. And part of that cycle goes in what feeds him is not only providing value to his clients, but his ability to express himself in musicality. Sometimes we'll come across other clients where they're ex-professional athletes or Olympic athletes, and they are not expressing their physicality. And to me, that is an immediate red flag. That's a red flag. Just like Bob, I knew his music from a kid. And when I first started working with him, I don't think he was playing that much. He was on the side because he had to work and he had to be serious and do all that other stuff and be serious. And I said, well, perhaps this music thing, because it's an A activity. It inspires him. It's a feeder, energy in, energy out. Okay. And the more energy you have in, guess what? The more energy you have to put out. Less friction, more velocity.
Yeah. So, Bob, you went from Edward Jones to going out on your own. What was the biggest challenge in doing that? Because that could be a pretty big jump. So, what was your experience with that? Like, what were the biggest adjustments you had to make?
It's a great question.
Scary. You have to have courage.
Henry Ford said when he put together the public education system in the early 1900s, he said, I got to teach this education system to produce workers for me. I need workers. In the public education system, let's teach them to go to work for us. And so throughout my life, both my parents were school teachers. I would say that I was born a Democrat, right? Upstate New York. My parents benefited from New York State teachers' retirement pensions. My dad was not a risk taker. My mom loved me, but she never gave me a whole lot of advice. So when I was growing up, we were pretty much on our own. And I had two sisters, I was in the middle, never had a brother. But when I first took my first job out of college, I went from upstate New York to Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1984. I took a job with this company called Furr's Cafeteria, and I was a young whippersnapper from, East Coast, and I spent a lot of time in Southern California opening restaurants on the corner of Kmart parking lots. These were 300-seat restaurants. So that's what I did for 7 years. And I got a great work ethic, and I worked my butt off. I was married and divorced early in my life then. And I came back, to Philadelphia through work, and I met my wife, Laurel. And she said to me, Bob, if you're going to marry me, you got to get out of that business. And I'm like, I love this girl. I guess I better find something else to do. I think part of my natural, I was always winning all the sales contests at First Cafeteria out in the West Coast. How many shrimp platters can you sell in a week? All this good stuff, right? I also was almost bilingual because I was almost Spanish speaking really pretty good from my experience in California. So I come back and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I interviewed for the Yellow Pages at the time. And they hired me on the telephone, and I was selling bold listings in the Yellow Pages to Philadelphia on the phone with 100 other people in the room, with a sales manager listening to every call you made. And it was like a foreign experience. I was really nervous, but I thrived there. I became a major account executive at the end of my career. But I also lived inside corporate America. And, and I never experienced anything else. I mean, this is great. I'm making, a couple 100,000, 300,000 a year on paper and ink inside a phone book. I'm meeting all types of businesses, air conditioning, dentists, heating, all these guys across the alphabet we served. But it was transactional in nature. And the Verizon people were if you didn't make your number, Podraza, you better be looking for another job. Or, if you don't sell that front cover because your attorney decided that he can't pay his bill because he was billing $50,000 a month and he's a little behind. So you got to find another attorney to put their face on the front cover of the phone books. That was the environment I was trained in, I guess. And the other part too, in order to become a Yellow Page representative, Super Coach Ken, you have to memorize a 17-page sales presentation verbatim and present it on the first day, or you were terminated.
Wow. 17 pages?
Yeah.
Boiler room. We're going old school sales.
Right. And then come the objection pieces. I have enough customers, or all my customers are recommended. I don't need to advertise, and we would just be able to regurgitate the response because it was just drilled into us, And so I did very well there. And I had a friend, his name's Andy Sheridan, who left Verizon and went to Edward Jones. And he said to me, Bob, you make a great advisor. Because part of my role, the Yellow Pages, was I would be the guy that would help everybody figure out the sales plan, Coach Gino. Because every year corporate America changes the sales plan. Sales changes the quotas.
Of course.
You name it, right? You got a new manager who's looking to make a mark, all that good stuff. And so that was the experience I was trained in. Great sales training across different types of businesses. But Andy would always say to me, Bob, you should become a financial advisor. He was with Edward Jones. I'm like, nah, everything's good. Then 2008 came, the bottom fell out of the economy. And more importantly, people changed the way they got information. And that's, Google and the internet. So that's how I made the transition to Edward Jones. But Edward Jones is a partnership. And I was so excited to be part of a partnership rather than a corporation. I thought maybe that was different, I guess. And I was able to, I'm like, well, you can say what's really on your mind, because you couldn't do that in corporate America. You couldn't tell your sales manager, anyways. And so the partnership thing for me was like, oh, well, it's a partnership and, the Edward Jones model, and you have one branch office administrator and one, financial advisor. And I'm like, wow, this is really good. I can serve the community, and go face to face, door knock, which we did a lot of. And when I left Edward Jones, I'm like, I guess I been like what Henry Ford wanted me to be. I worked for somebody my whole life. I never knew anything different. And then all of a sudden, here I am. Instead of working for the man, I guess, so to speak, I am the man. So what's really the difference for me? I obviously have to be well versed in basic business. I had to open an office. I had to, I had a branch office administrator that I hired. I had to get all the electric, all the phone system, the computer systems. But it was very much like the Edward Jones model because I wanted to be in the community. So my office is in the, right here, right down the street from the Edward Jones office, across from the historic Red Lion Inn, where 1776, they put the Liberty Bell. Spent a little time here in Quakertown, Pennsylvania.
Wow. That's the Quakertown's famous name, was the
Yes,
Liberty Bell was there?
that's correct. In the historic McCool's historic Red Lion Inn. I'm right across the street. But when you think about having your own business, especially as a financial advisor, because I was naive to think that those clients and the relationships that I developed at Edward Jones were mine, and they're not. They belong to Edward Jones. They belong to Merrill Lynch. They belong to Wells Fargo. They belong to Janney Montgomery Scott. Right? So as advisors, it's a beautiful thing because I'm Series 7 licensed, Series 7 and 66 licensed. And one of my high school buddies said to me, Bob, what's it like to have your own firm? My son's interested in getting financial services. And I'm like, Joe, the advice I would give to your son is that this financial service industry is one way for an individual that does the right thing. And as Coach Kent, what we do is noble and right, has the fortitude to help people manage their life savings. You are the brand. And I had clients tell me that at Edward Jones, we're investing with you, Bob, not with Edward Jones. And conversely, there were clients at Edward Jones that said, Bob, I like Edward Jones. You're the agent, but, I like Edward Jones. Okay. But at the end of the day, when you're Series 7 licensed, which is a very difficult exam to pass, and you make money for families that you work with, and you help them with their tax structure, and you know their kid's name, and sometimes they want you to talk to their kids because they're knuckleheads, right? Or you're always available because when the phone rings, they don't get a call tree. When they're in the grocery store, they run into me. Well, I might see them at a sporting event. It's just a beautiful business model. And the biggest difference, Coach Gino, to answer your question at the end of the day, is the clients are now Robert James Investments. They are my clients. They will be, who serves them in the future gets to be my choice, not some manager's choice. And some advisors will choose to sell their book of business, which is great as well. That's an opportunity for me that I didn't have at Jones. But I think the thing that excites me most about my own firm is that I can serve them I don't have to report to anyone else.
Man.
So that's the double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with a high level of responsibility, and it's humbling. And that's why my goal is to continue to serve the families and their kids well into the future. And I have a son, Alex, who someday might be part of the firm, maybe not. I know my daughter, Claire, she's a physician assistant, so she's not going to be, she doesn't even want to put money in her Roth IRA, Coach Gino. So she don't listen to me. But my son, Alex, is a wonderful capitalist in training, and I hope that he would someday be part of the firm, but that'll be his decision. But there's also other people in the community that I know would be great financial advisors. And that just brings me a joy to be able to have this lifestyle and the earning potential that's here as a financial advisor. It's just, you're not selling yellow pages anymore, Bob. It's
Right.
something enduring. It will endure into infinity because people viscerally want to deal with a human being. And I think that has shown its face over the past 4 years of this stay home, stay safe, work remotely, sit in front of a piece of glass all day. Now, that might be great for some people, but it's not great for me. And I get to do that business face to face as I choose to.
Got it. Love it.
We didn't talk about Funkin Soul Nuts.
All right. So,
Just to say,
And
can you
now,
say it a little more clearly because it sounds differently? Just so you say, are you
all right. It's
funking,
the
funk, like
funking.
funk.
okay?
Well,
Good.
it's
Just
funny
making
because
sure.
Not with the hard K.
All right, just making sure.
Like Dunkin' Donuts, but
Okay.
instead of Dunkin',
all right,
it's
yeah, funkin'. We're the funkin'.
Okay.
funk. Like
Uh,
then you can hear a coaching class as he tells me about the donuts. I will share with some coaching tips that he always resists me.
look, there are few things in this life that are better than playing on stage at 80 decibels in a full rock band with a drummer back there. You got a bass player.
Love it.
You're on stage. People love you.
Now, are you wearing a suit or what are you dressed as?
No,
Rock star? You got like the black
we're in
shirt
black.
on, like
No, black.
you
It's
got you
black.
tatted up too? You got your
Black.
tats
I
under
have no
there somewhere?
tattoos. No tattoos. Um, but it's the experience for me being on stage and playing with a classic rock band, and I had my own band, could have been huge, which I played for 20 years, and then I hooked up with these guys after COVID. Everything fell apart because nobody was, couldn't even go to a restaurant, right? Couldn't play.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's true.
Not in the free state of Florida though.
So Funkin Soul Nuts, interestingly enough, it came through a network of face-to-face playing with other people. This guy, Chris Rossica, great drummer. I met with another band, and I was playing keyboards in this band. And I invited him over to my house because I really liked him. And he's a drummer, and he came, and I have a studio at my house. So he comes over and plays the drums. It's he and I. Spent a couple hours playing music together. Next day, the phone rings. He goes, Bobby. He goes, "You want to join a band?" I'm like, "What do you got?" He goes, "You have to play the guitar, though." And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." I really wanted to play keyboards, but they already have a keyboard player. His name's David Jack, who made a living playing music. So that's how I became part of the Funkin Soul Nuts. David Jack founded the band with Tony Delmore, who's a wonderful drummer and lead vocalist. And we've been playing together for about a year and a half now. And the highlights, I guess, for that are venues. I mean, we played Parks Casino in Bensalem, like outside of Philadelphia. The casino scene's interesting to play. We played a couple comedy shows that we were like, David Letterman's band, right? So we're the band that, plays in between David Letterman's comedy thing.
Wow.
We played outdoor township events in the summer, the free events for the community. So we played many of those. And of course, we do breweries and, bars. And
Okay, so let's
and
do a
we
little
did
exercise.
and we did the Buck Hotel, Super Coach Ken,
Buck,
which is
the,
Buck
so
Hotel, which is
the
a premier
Buck Hotel. So the
upscale.
Funking Soul Nuts or
Right.
it's Funking Soul Nuts. We're at the Buck
The
Hotel
Buck Hotel. That's correct.
in Bucks County.
That's correct. And it is a
Wow,
wonderful,
that's a
beautiful
mouthful.
establishment.
Cool.
We got to get Gino to say that in one sentence.
So yeah, I don't think I could.
But the best part about the Buck Hotel is, when I was there, I'm like, I have some clients that live down the county because Buck Hotel is down, 20 miles down the county. I go, "We're going to be at the Buck Hotel." Really? Oh, I said, "Yeah. Why don't you come? This event." They brought their friends. I go up to them because I always work the room at the bar, at the bars where I'm at.
See, that's where I wanted to get to.
Mr. and
Yeah,
Mrs.
so do you have
Klein, how you
groupies?
doing? They're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
Bob, it sounds great." I said, "Do you want to get up there and play with us?" No, but I brought some friends. Here's my friends. I want to introduce you to them.
Awesome. So this creates a great question out there for everyone. I'm sure everyone's curious. If you're a rock star, how do you, from a rock star, convert people into becoming a
Well,
client of a financial
okay.
advisor? Like
First of all,
from long
Coach Ben,
hair,
I am not a
tattoos.
rock. Okay, I'm many things, but a rock star I am not. All right.
Bob, you're a rock star. You get up on stage and sing. So for all intents and purposes, you're the guy in the front of the room on the mic, singing Roxanne, put on your red dress.
That's true.
So for all of us out there, for the very serious financial advisors, they're like, I could never be a rock star, but like, how do you convert? And I think that's the fascinating part, is the conversion, right? So how do I go from rock star to financial advisor? And we've been working on this, and he's been getting very, very good. So first of all, so one of the resistance initially, I was like, Bob, we need to get Robert James Investments up on that stage somehow. And Bob be like, no, we're music, we're rock stars
That would
team.
clash with the
I
Funkin
don't want
Soul
to,
Nuts logo.
yeah, I don't want to sell out. And then I was like, he's like, I don't want to sell out. I'm like, I'm curious, who's paying for all the equipment and stuff? I'm like, oh, you are. So as you're raising your level of awareness or raising your flag, you see what the Funking Soul Nuts does for Bob. It gets him access to people he normally wouldn't get access to. And he never is not a financial advisor, right? So he's always looking for opportunities to serve. You heard what Bob said. After the event, he'll work the room. Or if there's clients in a particular area or prospects in a particular area, he invites them to the show. And he even has Robert James Investments guitar picks that he throws out into the crowd like all rock stars, and the towels, the sweaty towels like Elvis did,
Yeah.
and it's just, not what you should see. Once again, conflicting
Yeah.
coaching. This is what happens when
See,
clients
Coach
don't do
Gino,
what you tell them to do.
He's confusing me with like Motley Crue or something like that. That kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I've seen the clips.
Funkin Soul Nuts are more like I don't know, Rolling Stone.
Yeah, but you guys have a website too, right? You have websites, albums,
Of
CDs.
course we do. We have
Yeah.
no
What's the
albums.
website?
FunkingSoulNuts.com. We'll find us on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook.
And hopefully all of you also notice that he gets very excited when he talks about being a rock star. And that's just a huge benefit to anyone's business to be excited about something, right? Because that energy is transferable. That's why we always say A places, A people, A activity, because there's an afterglow after those events that you can bring back to the office.
It also makes for a very natural and easy bump and pass,
A beautiful bump and pass. Have we ever
right?
talked about that on the podcast, or is that the secret sauce?
I don't know that we did. I think we usually hold that for our clients so that they'd have to pay for that. If for those of you who want to learn about a bump and pass, well, you're gonna have to, pursue coaching with us, and we'll give you the little slight edges there on the bump and pass.
Pony up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, it's
So
a powerful bump and pass.
Bob, how many of your clients, right? How many would you say are musicians? Like, do you have a fair number of people who are actually enthusiasts
Or
of
music
playing
related.
instruments and things like that?
I would say I work with about 120 families. In the top 20, I might go out on a limb and say they all came through the music world.
Wow.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
One of my top clients is a wonderful pianist, organist. He doesn't play with me now, but he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super powerful. So let me ask you a question on that though, because
here's the problem, Coach Gino. So we're sitting there in a room, I'm playing with music with these guys, and they start asking me about freaking stock market and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, I'm here. They self-select.
yes.
It's like I say to my son Alex, I was just minding my own business and this came along. I was just minding my own business. I didn't,
when you play out in traffic enough, you will get hit.
Yeah. And that's why for me, the other part of it is, look, there's a lot of guys with a guitar. There's a lot of guys that really suck. Okay. That's why it's so important for me to continue to develop my music, because viscerally, when I see a musician that I wish I could be like them, right? There's a higher level. I know what the work and the amount of time they had to put in to something. So if they do it they would probably do it for me as a client, as an advisor, right? To manage my money. It's the same amount of focus and talent that people are attracted to.
So you said earlier that it took you a while to really have this music thing tie into Robert Jane's investment. So what put it over the top? Like what helped you finally kind of make that connection and say, all right, I can do this. I'm going to do this. Because I know there's a lot of people who don't know what are struggling with how to tie in their passions with their business. What advice would you give there?
It's okay to be a client and a true friend at the same time.
Ooh.
For some, right? Because when you begin as a financial advisor, what's the first thing that the insurance guy tells you? Go sell insurance to all your friends and family, because they know you, they trust you, they love you, they want to help you. Right. And it's very uncomfortable for a lot of people to start asking their family for money. Right. And usually it doesn't end well. That's the biggest the thing I would say is that, it allows me just, I don't know, my best clients are ones that I know well. I consider them my friends. I would not let them down. And I believe that the value that, we have more than makes up for, the money that they spend for us to serve them. It's just maybe an uncomfortable place to be for some people. And maybe that was, but I've overcome that. And like Coach Ken said, it's okay to put Robert James Investments up on your piano when you play, because people need to know you got to put the flag up. And it says Bob Podraza, and that's the beauty of you're having your own business, having your own financial firm versus working for someone else in the financial world. It's funny, Coach Ken, Super Coach Ken. A lot of people, oh, you're with Raymond James. Yeah, okay, you're Raymond James. Raymond James. Because they see Robert James Investment. And that's the boom. I have to, correct them. But the other thing too is that, you explain to families that you're a professional financial firm. I have a broker dealer, Prospera. They're wonderful folks out of Dallas, Texas. They work with about 300, high-performing financial advisors. And my custodian is Wells Fargo Clearing Service. So at the end of the day, I have huge, huge resources behind Robert James Investments, just like we did at Edward Jones. Mm. The only difference is Edward Jones was a custodian, broker dealer, and the clients were Edward Jones clients. So that was like, oh my gosh, it was almost very humbling to make that transition. But I'm 3 years into it, and the lights are green, and I am really enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And
Gino,
I'm an advocate of getting results and coach, all the coaches, because I truly believe. And believe me, I told Coach Ken when I looked back how many years I've been
tell the story.
I wanted to quit on Coach Ken after 6 months. I'm like, no, yeah,
And what did I say?
Coach Gino, there's a couple of times in your life when you remember what somebody said to you, right? I remember when my dad slapped me across the face and said, "Don't ever talk to your mother that way ever again." Mm. It was one of those moments. Coach Ken said to me, he goes, if you want to be who you bring your potential, you want to really bring out Bob Podraza, I am the guy. I am the most important person in your life right now.
Wow.
Well, I think before that, I said, Bob, that's the dumbest thing I've heard all week.
That's right. You called me dumb. That was the only time I think you ever. That's right, Coach. Coach, you got to preface it with, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Because it was. Well, a part of role is for us as coaches is we're stand for our clients, and there are times when your client, okay, they're done and it's time for them to move on, or you're at a certain level. But then there's other times when people are in their own way, like Podraza was, and I said, damn, that's fucking stupid. What was that one? Right? That's just dumb. Is being a stand for somebody, and because oftentimes we don't see our own greatness, or we can't see our own potential, but others can, especially with him and the rock star thing. The rock star thing is such a unique differentiator in the market, right? And I think that is such an exploitable slight edge. And Gina, you mentioned earlier, okay, like how does someone truly pursue their passions or pursue their music? Like how do you weave that into someone's business? And the simple answer is you start small.
Mm.
How do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. Like, hey, if you play music, it's very simple. I think what we did with Bob is I got him to invite other clients or prospects to go see rock shows or to go, do rocker stuff. And then after it, I was like, how was it? Oh, he was like, awesome, great, great. I'm like, then I said, did you notice that the relationship sort of shifted with that individual? Do you feel deeper and closer to them? And he's like, yeah, it did. "Oh, so you really accelerated likability and trust, didn't you?" He's like, yeah, I think I did. And then I was like, well, from that time spent with them, what kind of opportunities to be of service did you see? And he said, well, maybe I could do this for them, or they need this, or they own a business, they have that. So I'm like, wow, that could be an interesting point to start a conversation.
Yeah.
So we start small. Whatever it is, whether it's skiing, gunning, bowling, music, just start small. Reading books,
Yeah.
wine.
I think, being a Virgo, so I overthink things often. And sometimes I get, paralysis analysis, so I don't do anything. And Coach Ken, right, do something, Bob. Don't think, just do. And the beauty is in the action. And a lot of times it's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable. But hey, if you're a financial advisor, you know what uncomfortable is. I mean, come on, let's call a spade when you start with 0 clients. 0.
The capital Z.
And my favorite joke is, what's the difference between a new financial advisor and a large cheese pizza? A large cheese pizza can feed a family of 4.
That's a good
I
one.
didn't see that coming. That's good. I like
That's a large cheese pizza can feed a family of 4.
that.
It is. So we financial advisors who, when we remember being, when you go back to the stages, and I know you talk about this, but when you're on Survivor Island, right? And every day you got to find something. You kill what you eat what you kill, and then all of a sudden, if you're one of the, 2 out of 10 that actually make it in this business, maybe it might even be 1 in 10, you realize that, wow, what the opportunities are here to serve. Hopefully you have the ability to know that you need some help. When you have someone like you guys to help someone roll the ball downhill, you can sustain that for, throughout your life. And I bet you there are still some advisors that are pretty unhappy with what they're doing, or they're trying to figure something out. Or, when they're a $1 million producer, they got to figure out how to be a $2 million producer. It's all that stuff. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to take yourself out of the business. And for me, you have, I think about the chords. I think about the music, the guitar chords, Coach Gino, not the cash. Think about the chords, not the cash.
Yeah. I like it. Bob, awesome stuff. It's been a pleasure having you. Coach Ken, any last words before we wrap and close out?
Music, but once again, if you have that slight edge, you're playing an advantage. And once again, we go back to what I said earlier. Just notice how music weaves together the whole tapestry of his life and business and helps make sense for Bob, right? It's prospecting, it's servicing your clients, it's meeting new clients, and it gives him the juice and allows him to express his creativity, be on stage. It's just an all around win, win, win. And the more that you win, the more that you win.
No doubt. Bob, thank you again for joining us. It's been awesome.
It's been my pleasure. Guys, thanks again. And thanks for all you do out there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
To our listeners, if you enjoyed today's podcast and you got value out of it, please subscribe, follow us, share us, send out a link to others that you think should be hearing this podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and gettingresultsinc.com under resources. Until our next episode, be great.